Welcome to the news on NTA International. I am Mina Daniels. First, the headlines. The federal government declares the proposed nationwide industrial action by the organized labor as premature and illegal. Federal government to begin oil exploration in Ogun State. Plus, Hamas and Israel agree on a framework for peace advanced by U.S. President Joe Biden. The federal government has declared the proposed nationwide industrial action by the organized labor as premature, ineffectual, and illegal. The Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Lateef Fagbemi, SAN, made the declaration in a letter to the two trade centers in the country. Fagbemi, SAN, pointed out that declaration of industrial action without a 15 days notice as provided by the extant law brought to question the legitimacy of the proposed action. Lateef Fagbemi, SAN, as the chief law officer of the country, called the attention of the leadership of the two labor centers to the binding effects of the interim injunctive order of the National Industrial Court issued on 5th of June 2023 and all parties in the matter. The Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice advised labor leaders in the spirit of collective bargaining to return to the negotiation table to prevent foisting avoidable hardships on Nigerians. Lateef Fagbemi, SAN, stressed the need for the industrial unions to pursue their cause within the ambit of the law. The remaining 8 of the kidnapped students of the Confluence University of Science and Technology of Kogi State have been rescued. A statement by the State Commissioner for Information and Communication, Kingsley Femi-Fawo, indicates that the success story is in line with Governor Ododo's directive and support towards the rescue of the students as modalities are being put in place to make Kogi safer for all. The government of Kogi State will, while expressing profound gratitude to the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for directing the mobilization of resources to ensure the rescue of the kidnapped students, says government will continue to recalibrate the security architecture to pay attention to the Safe School initiative, giving assurance of putting structures in place to ensure every child is not deprived of his or her right to education. And the quest for Ogun State to become an oil-producing state has received a boost. As the federal government says, oil is now set for the exploration of oil and gas in the Gateway State. Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Oil, Henneken Lokpoberi, stated this when he led the federal government delegation to the state on fact-finding regarding the potential oil status of Ogun State. Leko Agbonde reports.
Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Oil, Henneken Lokpoberi, who led the delegation, acknowledges that the quest by the federal government to shore up its revenue through the discovery of mineral resources, including oil, in potential oil-producing states, brought the delegation to Ogun State. He notes that Ogun State has always been part of the Dahomey Basin Corridor with high deposit of mineral resources, including hydrocarbon, hence the visit.
Government decided that we're going to resume, exploration in the different, basins. We decided to come to Ogun State to reassure the people of Ogun State that we have very high potentials of, discoveries here. And that's why we're here. Our presence here, underscores the seriousness the federal government attaches to, the exploration activities that we want to carry out.
While appreciating the delegation for the choice of Ogun State, Governor Dapo Abiodun notes that the state has unique advantages and opportunities in the realization of the mission.
This is a region of the country that provides ease of access, low entry and operating costs, a safe and welcoming community, and of course, a very active state government support and participation.
The Dahomey Basin Corridor stretches from Ogun through Delta, Edo, and Ondo states, which the delegation intends to cover in the course of this national assignment. In Abeokuta, Lekan Agbonde, NTA News.
And the over 8 months of war in Gaza may have arrived a possible path to its end, as the warring sides of Hamas and Israel have agreed on a framework for peace advanced by the U.S. President Joe Biden. Kolom Mohammed tells us more.
An aide to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu confirmed on Sunday that Israel had accepted a framework deal for winding down the Gaza war, now being advanced by U.S. President Joe Biden, though he described it as flawed and in need of much more work. Mr. Falk, Chief Foreign Policy Advisor to Netanyahu, said Biden's proposal was a deal we agreed to. It is not a good deal, but we dearly want the hostages released, all of them.
We have two missions in this war. One is to destroy Hamas, and the other is to free the hostages. Those two missions are not mutually exclusive. To the contrary, they actually complement one another. We're doing everything we can right now to get the hostages out, to free the hostages as quickly as possible.
There are a lot of details to be worked out, he said, adding that Israeli conditions, including the release of the hostages and the destruction of Hamas as a genocidal terrorist organization, have not changed. Israeli President Isaac Herzog announced his support for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Sunday, contingent to Netanyahu's agreement to U.S. President Joe Biden's proposal for a deal between Israel and Hamas, aiming to bring an end to the ongoing war in Gaza Strip. He promised to give full support to Israeli government for a deal which will see the release of the hostages. He stressed that it is their inherent obligation to bring the hostages home within the framework of a deal that preserves the security interests of the State of Israel. U.S. President Joe Biden said Israel presented Hamas with a three-phase deal that will end hostilities in the besieged Gaza Strip and secure the release of hostages held in the coastal enclave.
It's time to begin this new stage. For the hostages to come home, for Israel to be secure, for the suffering to stop. It's time for this war to end.
President Biden appealed to Hamas to accept the deal and urged Netanyahu to resist pressure from the members of his government coalition opposed to the plan. Kolom Muhammad, NTA News.
And the ongoing security summit in Singapore is Asia's biggest. Regional misgivings are being tabled for possible arrival at the enduring peaceful resolutions. Again, Kolom Mohammed reports that an unscheduled appearance by Ukraine President changed the tone of the summit on Sunday.
Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky's unscheduled appearance at Asia's biggest security conference dominated precedents on Sunday after China's defense chief slammed separatists in Taiwan, drawing a sharp response from the government in Taipei. Dressed in his trademark olive green t-shirt, Zelensky addressed the Dialogue Forum in Singapore, asking for support and participation at a summit in Switzerland later this month, aimed at bringing peace to his war-ravaged nation. We are convinced that our world wants to be united and be capable of acting in complete harmony. This he said to a ballroom packed full of delegates in formal business wear and military uniforms. Zelensky told a news conference that he was not able to meet the Chinese delegation at the conference and was disappointed that Beijing will not attend the summit. China, unfortunately, is working for countries not to come to the peace summit, he said. China distances itself from proponents of Taiwan sovereignty as there is a fresh alleged plan by China to bring Taiwan home once and for all. Kolom Muhammad, NTA News.
In a presidential election believed to rewrite the history of Latin America, electorates in Mexico are at the polls to vote in a new president to lead Mexico into its immediate future. It will be historic as the two major front-runners are women. Again, Kolom Mohammed reports that for the first time in its history, Mexico may have a female president.
Voters choosing Mexico's next president are deciding Sunday between a former academic who promises to further the current leader's populist policies and an ex-senator and tech entrepreneur who pledges to up the fight against deadly drug cartels. In an election likely to give Mexico its first woman president, nearly 100 million people are registered to vote in the race to replace outgoing President Andrés Manuel López Obrador. Voters will also elect governors in 9 of the country's 32 states and choose candidates for both houses of Congress, thousands of mayorships, and other local posts. The elections are widely seen as a referendum of López Obrador, a populist who has expanded social programs but largely failed to reduce cartel violence in Mexico. His Morena party currently holds 23 of the 32 governorships and a simple majority of seats in both houses of Congress. Mexico's constitution prohibits the president's re-election. Morena hopes to gain the 2/3 majority in Congress required to amend the constitution to eliminate oversight agencies that it says are unwieldy and wasteful. The opposition, running a loose coalition, argues that will endanger Mexico's democratic institutions. Both major presidential candidates are women, and either will be Mexico's next president. A third candidate from a smaller party, Jorge Alvarez Maynez, trails far behind. Mexico City Mayor Claudia Sheinbaum is running with the Morena party. Sheinbaum, who leads in the race, has promised to continue all of López Obrador's policies, including a universal pension for elderly and a program that pays youths to apprentice. Kolom Muhammad, NTA News.
China landed an uncrewed spacecraft on the far side of the moon on Sunday, overcoming a key hurdle in its landmark mission to retrieve the world's first rock and soil samples from the dark lunar hemisphere. The landing elevates China's space power status in a global rush to the moon, where countries including the United States are hoping to exploit lunar minerals to sustain long-term astronaut missions and moon bases within the next decade. The Chang'e C6 craft, equipped with an array of tools and its own launcher, touched down in a gigantic impact crater called the South Pole Aitken Basin on the moon's space-facing side at 6:23 a.m. Belgian time. The China National Space Administration said the mission involves many engineering innovations, high risks, and great difficulty, the agency said in a statement on its website. The payloads carried by the Chang'e lander will work as planned and carry out scientific exploration missions. The successful mission in is China's second on the far side of the moon, a region no other country has reached. The side of the moon perpetually facing away from the Earth is dotted with deep and dark craters, making communications and robotic landing operations even more challenging. Determined to add more vigor to the nation's maritime domain awareness, the federal government is considering merging the two control and command centers domiciled with the Nigerian Navy and that managed by the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, NIMASA. The Minister of State for Defense, Bello Matawale, gave the hint while accessing the C41 Center in Lagos. Michael Olaleye reports.
The C4I Center is a vital component of the Deep Blue platform vested with the responsibility of overseeing activities within the country's exclusive economic zone. And as the name suggests, it is the eyes at sea. The command, control, communication, computer and intelligence system unit is powered by unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, that provide real-time information about suspicious vessels. This particular technology has same capabilities with the Navy's Falcon Eyes. Now, the minister's visit to this center is not for sightseeing, but to deepen strategic partnership that will effectively put the two technologies to use in the interests of security, trade, and economic prosperity.
If the Falcon Eye and C4I are communicating, so if we have any crisis, one of them should communicate to each so that they should be able to fish out the criminals in the backwater and in the high sea.
This initiative, lauded by stakeholders, is the prelude to deepening collaboration between the NIMASA and the Navy in the quest at increasing surveillance at sea.
C4I is on its own is a very capable setup. And the Falcon safety, but when we combine together, I know we are going to get it better than what we used to do before.
We actually do have a lot of vessels, that are on our waterways that are going unchecked. But then with this collaboration with Nigerian Navy and NIMASA, I'm sure that would improve a lot.
While key players look forward to more innovative ideas that will advance the future of trade in the course of securing the maritime space, they are hopeful that this move, when operational, will make the nation's water forbidding for crimes. In Lagos, Michael Olaleye, NT News.
You're watching the news on NTA International. We have more reports after the break. Glad to have you back. National Drug Law Enforcement Agency NDLEA has intercepted codeine syrup, loud consignments worth more than 2 billion naira in Lagos and Port Harcourt ports. Arrest 70-year-old grandpa, among others, for alleged drug offense during its weekly operations across the country. Let's join Sawal Khalil Ibrahim as he brings us more details.
The large consignments of codeine-based syrup and loud, a synthetic strain of cannabis worth more than 2 billion naira, have been intercepted at the Port Harcourt Seaport, One, and the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Ikeja, by operatives of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA. At the Lagos Airport, NDLEA officers, with the cooperation of other security agencies, on Friday, 31st May 2024, intercepted a large consignment of loud packed in 8 suitcases containing 320 parcels with a total weight of 164.50 kg of the strong psychoactive substance from Canada. At the Port Harcourt Ports Complex, NDLEA operatives intercepted a container with 175,000 bottles of the opioids worth more than 1.2 billion naira in street value. In Abuja, a 25-year-old lady was arrested with 1 kilogram methamphetamine by NDLEA operatives on patrol along Kwali-Gwagwalada Expressway while traveling in a commercial bus from Lagos to Yola, Adamawa State. In the same vein, operatives in Nasarawa State nabbed a 70-year-old grandfather with 57.2 kg cannabis in Lafia, the state capital. Others were nated in Ekiti and Katsina State for different alleged drug offenses. In Abuja, Salwa Khalil Ibrahim, NTA News.
Wife of the Inspector General of Police, Elizabeth Ebwetokun, says it is the responsibility of parents to create an environment where children could thrive, learn, and chase their dreams without fear or limitations. This was at a forum with police children at the Power International Schools, Abuja. Francis Fom reports.
I know we'll get better class.
These are pupils of Police Children's School Day, fitted in the boots of their parents, doing what they know how to do best.
So the thing they sweet me like say my come down go do up. If I enter now, go fuck up. Hi. See ya.
And wife of the Inspector General of Police, Elizabeth Ebwetokun, is impressed. She says parents in the barracks must ensure that every child has access to quality education, health care, and most importantly, love and support.
To all the children present here today, I want you to know that you are the heartbeat of our nation, the hope of tomorrow, and the reason we strive to build a better world. Your laughter, curiosity, and boundless energy reminds us of the beauty and purity that exists in the world. As we celebrate Children's Day, let us recommit ourselves to championing the rights of every child, to providing them with the tools and opportunities they need to fulfill their potential.
She also encouraged the children to take their studies seriously. Francis from NTA News.
Rather than relying on food imports to bridge the food sufficiency gap, Nigeria should mobilize domestic resources to enhance local food production to achieve food security in the country. This is a submission of key players in the agri sector as they discuss the need for Nigeria to join the League of Nations enjoying food security. Susan Eze has the report.
Food is one of the essential elements necessary for living. Achieving food security in the country entails having reliable access to sufficient quantity of affordable, nutritious food for all citizens. With poverty, conflict, rising inflation and climate crisis hampering efforts at achieving food sufficiency across Africa, stakeholders opine that Nigeria must be deliberate and committed to proper implementation of her agri programs to rise above challenges of hunger and malnutrition in the region.
Farmers cannot do it alone. Give us the encouragement and all the necessary tools to do this thing. We can achieve it, we can provide enough food for the country.
For any nation to be self-sufficient in food production, it has to meet 4 tests: food availability, food sufficiency, food accessibility, and the test of utility. In all these 4, I as a farmer am responsible for one, which is food availability.
To achieve the desired goals of the various agri-intervention programs of government, the farmers outline areas of concentration.
Extension officers have to be up and doing, train farmers, conscientize them on the modern trend of agricultural practices.
In this state of emergency on food production, on food security, please do more to reach farmers in the field so that the inputs, the insecticides, the pesticides, the fertilizers should reach us, because this is June and we're still waiting for these policies to translate to the field so that next year will be better for Nigerians than this year.
Overall, key players believe that through a combination of factors such as technological advancement in agriculture, research and development, enhanced access to credit and farm inputs by farmers, Nigeria can sufficiently feed her over 200 million citizens and even have excess for export. In Enugu, Susan Eze, NTA News.
And reports just reaching us say leadership of the National Assembly are meeting organized labor as part of efforts to avert the planned nationwide strike. President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, who is presiding over the meeting, urges labor to show understanding, assuring that the National Assembly will do all it can to see that a compromise is arrived at. Speaker of the House of Representatives, Tajuddin Abbas, is also in attendance. Also at the meeting being held behind closed doors are ministers of key ministries, the president of the NLC, Joe Ajero, and that of the TUC, Joe. We'll bring you details of this report in our subsequent bulletins. An influx of people into Abuja without corresponding increase in houses to accommodate them has over the years placed high price tag on houses available for rent. However, with rising cost of goods and services, a more soaring cost of house rent is recently being witnessed in Abuja, and so much more that many residents find it unbearable. Oramatu Abdullahi fills us in with some findings on this situation.
Abuja, the nation's capital, is a center of attraction for many Nigerians and non-Nigerians alike. This is because of the diverse opportunities it is believed to offer many, whether for business or leisure. Depending on the location, securing a shelter in Abuja is expensive, while some places are highbrow areas with luxurious services designed mostly for the rich. There are other suburbs that accommodate middle or low-income earners. But with the current economic realities, both the high and the low are bearing the brunt of the increase.
Call it self-contained of 400,000. After I pay, after a few months, the owner of the apartment now say it's 450,000. Then I pay, which is my rent supposed to expire by December this year, this 2024. And 2 days back again, the same lady sent me a text that now, from now up, that my house rent is going to be 500,000. Whether if I like, I pay, but if I don't like, I should.
The country is going out to feed, how to pay your school fees of children, and increase of, and even though the increment in our time is about twofold or 1.5, so which is much on people.
How justifiable is it for the landlords who exorbitantly increase house rents?
Most of the landlords, what they are complaining is the increase of materials used to build the house, ranging from the cement, block, and even the sand, because the money of a sand, a tipper 6 tire, is increased.
Another problem is the agents. The agents want to get money out of a landlord and would-be tenant by all means. So they look into a situation where they offer the highest bidder to the landlords.
That is not based on current economic reality, but it's just wickedness. I will give you instance area in Daku. The road is being, the government is working on some inner roads at the moment, and some landlords said because they have a good road now, they just increase their rent all of a sudden. That one is not tagged to the economic reality, it's actually tagged to the infrastructure that is being provided. And it's a question that, are you the one providing the infrastructure or is the government?
A legal practitioner, Mani Ataguba, says housing deficit in Abuja makes it difficult to regulate high charges on rent, even if there exist rent laws.
Whenever a product is scarce, the price goes up. And if you want to insist as a tenant that the landlord should charge what is in the rent control law, the landlord will simply tell you to leave his house. You understand? So that is where the real problem is. And the solution to it is that people should be able to own their own houses.
Experts say by increasing funding, expanding the reach of housing schemes, and fostering public-private partnership, the low and medium-income earner can have the opportunity to own their own home, which is the best solutions to this problem. In Abuja, Ramatu Abdullahi, NTA News.
And those are the stories trending at this time. Many thanks for watching. I am Mina Daniels.